If you are the firm owner and you have all the knowledge and you're doing everything, and God forbid you get sick, you are the lifeline of your business. On them 15 hours, and they're like, well, I don't want to pay $100 more a month.
Yeah.
Well, is your time worth, is 15 hours of your time worth more than $100? And some of them seriously say, I don't know, that just seems expensive. They probably are lacking a growth mindset, and we probably don't vibe the best with them. So, and all of this should be visible on a firm level. So I know what Sally's working on. I know what Ben's working on. And as a partner, I know exactly where everything is. I shouldn't be communicating down the chain just to find out where everything's at.
I won't get into the details. I'll let her say whatever she wants to say, but it's pretty big. It's coming out pretty soon.
There is going to be a new community launching, a place where everyone can come together and just share.
Hey guys, so today we have none other than Katie Thomas on the CPA Primetime Podcast. And if you don't know who Katie Thomas is, you've been living under a rock, because I've seen her stuff over this past year. I think she has been doing really well as far as marketing from my perspective. But this is actually going to be an interesting interview, because I don't think, a lot of people have seen her stuff. And I know as a marketer that people will probably even watch her videos, never like it, never comment, never even reach out to her, yet they're really helped and their life is literally impacted by it. Like, that's what I understand about content marketing. So massive respect to Katie, putting a lot of awesome, helpful content out there for entrepreneurs. And, even some of my clients have come and said, hey, you should have Katie Thomas on the podcast, right? I said, okay, cool. And there's actually a couple of cool mentions we'll get into here in a minute. But without further ado, I would love to pass the mic off to her. And Katie, I mean, you've got the mic on CPA Primetime here. Tell the audience listening at home in their offices a little bit of your background story. And, you are a CPA, right? Tell us how you got here, right? Your origin story. And then what are you up to now? You have the mic.
Hey, thanks, Juan, so much for that really, really nice introduction. So my career started off, I worked for both PwC and Ernst & Young. I am a CPA, but I was always super curious about, what are maybe some of the more entrepreneurial paths. And I was telling my husband, who was my boyfriend at the time, I was like, these busy seasons are crazy, and it seems like we're super inefficient. Like, I am spending hours every week doing data entry for my timesheet, for emails passing back and forth, like, hey, my senior or the senior manager said this, so I need to pass that down to another staff. And it's like this huge telephone chain. It was just so many inefficiencies that I was like, this is crazy. There has to be a better way. Mm-hmm. And my boyfriend at the time, he was into pharmaceutical manufacturing, the engineer of automating their processes. Mm-hmm. So we were always super nerdy, having super nerd conversations, as I like to call them. And that's really where it sparked this light of like, hey, I think that there's a spot here to come in, really help accounting firms and, change their processes, implement new technology, integrate existing technology, and really change their life. And so they aren't spending hours every single week doing meaningless work, just data entry and forwarding emails, missing getting engagement letters signed. It's just not efficient. The firm owner isn't happy, the staff aren't happy, and the clients aren't happy. So it's blown up. It's been so much fun working with all these various firms, and all of them, while they have a little bit different problems, which I do like the challenge of, nothing's exactly the same, they're very common problems. Mm-hmm. So typically what we're seeing is they come to us, they say like, hey, I want to improve my bottom line. What business owner doesn't? Mm-hmm. And so we say, great. There's kind of two ways you can do it. You can increase that top line, the revenue, so add new clients, like you're an expert at that, helping with the marketing side. Increase your prices, add a new service offering, learn how to project your value as you help your CPA firms do. Or you can become more efficient. So we need to decrease costs. We need to find ways to streamline tasks. We need to essentially just become more efficient and automate those things that are taking a lot of time, but they're not adding a lot of value. So we work with them on, like I said, the practice management side of things. So streamlining processes, gosh, I can't speak today, integrating existing technology, implementing new technology. And then we also work with them some on the digital marketing side, purely from a kind of content marketing on terms of running their email campaigns and helping them stay in front of their prospective clients.
Yeah. So a couple of interesting things said there, like a lot of interesting things said there. But what I want to point out is she said when she was describing, efficiencies and processes, she said changing their life, right? And I think as, people that are putting content out there so frequently, seeing a lot of people, even say thank you to us, right? We try to have a lot of humility and say, oh, well, we're just trying to help out here, right? No, like I love that you said changing lives, and it literally like went by so fast that listeners don't realize, I mean, people's lives are getting better here, right? And I remember when I was at PwC typing in, the meetings were really cool, a lot of really cool movie-like Hollywood opportunities, right? But there was a lot of time wasted with data entry, with things that really I felt robots could do. And we had a lot of talent. And I mean, there's so many firms out there that have a lot of talent. One of the things we're looking at now from the advisory side is really communicating the value. And hey, other business owners need to know that CPAs, accountants cannot just be replaced by robots. And it's not as simple as that. But I'd like you to speak more on the processes side, because that's super interesting to me. I think both with increasing top line, that's really what I look at a lot. Marketing, outbound, it's like offense. It's, how many points can we score? I don't ask even my own self. I don't ask, I don't say we can't afford that. I say, how do we get enough funds to afford that, right? And so the contrast between this interview, both the defense and offense of minimizing those expenses in the accounting market, a lot of accountants do think like that. And I mean, you are a CPA, so I would love if you just spoke a little bit about how important these processes are. I'm trying to always improve processes myself, because I relate a lot of things in sports, in business, to sports. And they say that you can't win, a championship without a great defense, right? And so that's kind of, the process is part of it. Are we spending too much here, right? Where can we spend less? At the same time, you've got to light up the scoreboard and score a lot of points to win, which is really what I look at a lot. But so since I talk about that a lot, please talk about some of this minimizing costs as far as getting these processes better and taking advantage of efficiencies that you're able to see, right? What are some key, insights that you have there that you've seen?
For sure. So there's a few different areas of practice management. And a lot of times we like to work with these firms and we walk through their life cycle of whenever they first get a client to kicking off the project to completing the project, like what's that look like? So some things to consider is, all right, you've got a new client. Maybe they came through some of your marketing tactics and the client says, yes, let's move forward. So it's like, all right, where's their data being stored? Is it in a CRM where we can tag them in a new way to say that this engagement's won? And can it be now pushed into automatically creating an engagement letter? Practice Ignition is a super common tool used for engagement letters. So once we've got that engagement letter, what can we do to make that engagement letter process more efficient? Can we template out the service offerings so that they're ready to go there and, it's not going through a huge chain of review? So once we have that proposal, there's a couple other different softwares, but Practice Ignition is definitely going to be what people are most familiar with. We want to be able to have the client easily review it, e-sign it, and as soon as they sign, we need to kick off that onboarding workflow, which all of this, it's not only making you more efficient, keeping your staff happy, but also the client experience. That's crucial, because on the client side, it's like, all right, great. I went online, I e-signed, and now I've got my onboarding workflow. So what that should look like is, for the firm, tasks should automatically be assigned to staff or whoever's in charge of that workflow. And clients should also get some sort of kind of task-like thing. So they should automatically get their welcome package. Hey, here are next steps, whether that's to schedule a kickoff call, whether it's to go ahead and request certain information and documents, so that they can clearly feel comfortable that, all right, I'm being taken care of. I did sign this engagement letter, I paid, and they already are seeing that value. Going through an engagement. So let's say we had our kickoff call, we've sent them the document request. It's really nice if you can have automatic routing of documents, so the client can come in, they can upload their documents, it can automatically route to the folders. We don't need staff to manually drag and drop folders. And along with that, they need to be uploading their documents to a very secure place. So a client portal, Client Hub's a great example, Liscio,
Right.
TaxJoy.
Right. And these these softwares that you're listing out here, I just want to point out to the audience and the people listening at home that, like, you don't have to be a top 1,000 firm. You don't have to be a top 100 firm anymore to do these super fast.
No.
So, no, please continue. I love it. But I just wanted to point out how possible it is for, almost every firm in the nation to do this.
Exactly.
It's just, I think it's just about whoever does it. That's my opinion.
Yeah. And it's about thinking about things up front and, having that defense, as you kind of talk about, to say, whoa, like even with folders, we need to name them a certain way always, so that when the client uploads them to the portal, they can automatically route to that certain folder. And we aren't, creating a W-2 folder for our clients each time. We need that automatically there and automatically created. And so as clients upload documents, as staff perform tasks, we need tasks to be dependent upon one another, so that I know, okay, if I've done the X, Y now has to happen. And if I look forward, we need Z by this date, so Y needs to automatically occur by this date. And all of this should be visible on a firm level. So I know what Sally's working on. I know what Ben's working on. And as a partner, I know exactly where everything is. I shouldn't be communicating down the chain just to find out where everything's at. And as a client, I should also have insight if we're working on, a big project, like a storyboard option where I can see, okay, they're at this spot and, we expect to be completed by this date. All of that should be very transparent. I mean, it depends upon, if it's bookkeeping, they probably don't need to see that you're reconciling their books, but providing clients with enough insight that they can see that you're working on their projects is super important. And then looking at ways to also use automation to add value to advisory services is such as dashboarding. You can have dashboards set up that create alerts for whenever KPIs drop below the industry norm. So we can then reach out to our client and say, hey, I noticed this is happening. And that's an upsell for the client, and also upsell for the firm, but great value for the client. And then start coaching them on ways to improve their KPIs, let them know where they stand right now, and start providing deeper insight on. It was driven from an automated basis since we were notified that this KPI dropped. But considering where we can use automation to not only streamline processes, but also to provide existing and, future value to our clients down the road so they don't get into problems is super important. It's not about removing you. It's about using the tools there to improve your life, improve the clients, and improve the firm owner's life.
Right. And I'm sure that you've seen, how effective processes can be in big organizations. Just thinking about what I've been through myself, my internship at USAA. At that point, I didn't know like all this was going to happen in my career, but I did have the opportunity to implement a little dashboard between the accounting department and the finance department so that the month end function could be faster for a business that was in the top 100 of best places to work, top 50 maybe. And it was just, they're making so much money, yet let's have one person take out an intern. Sure, they're doing internship things, but let's have them spend a lot of their time on processes, because that's going to, nailing that down, even as a Fortune 500 company, that's just going to make us so much money, right? So is there a statistic or a way you can frame it, or something that you can tell us that really, you know, is going to help a lot of these businesses understand just how important it is? Maybe they worked at another firm besides PwC and EY, where we actually got to see people work on processes, right? Whether that's something, insight that you have, or something that you've just seen in these firms. Like I just gave the USAA example, right? If for those that don't know who that is, they're an insurance company, right, who serves the armed forces, who serves the military specifically, right? And even though they give out huge bonuses, have so much in profit, yet their main strength is probably nailing down efficiencies. And anyone within the business who, like, if they find a Katie Thomas within USAA, she will get extra special treatment because they value, you know, nailing down those processes so much. So no, can you frame it a little bit statistically, like, you know, tell the office, tell the audience, you know, the virtual office, tell the audience the true benefit here?
Yeah. So these are statistics that have been posted by other companies. Carbon says that just using their software, which is just, it's not complete practice management. It's not going to have like your engagement letters. And you're not going to be able to store, likely unless you're paying a ton of money, all of your documents in it. But it says it saves 12 hours per week per employee. And I definitely see those returns from the firms I've worked with. And then Count, a newer practice management software, it's saying that they're adding 10 points to the firm's bottom line. So if you're getting ready to even sell your business and you can add that 10 points to your bottom line, that's huge. But I think what's so important and often overlooked with practice management is it's not only that you became more efficient, your clients are happier, your employees are happier, you're happier as a firm owner. It's that as people transition in and out, there's something that you can replicate there. So if you are the firm owner and you have all the knowledge and you're doing everything, and God forbid you get sick, you are the lifeline of your business. Or if Sally, our top manager, leaves or has to move and she has all that knowledge in her head, that's so dangerous for a firm. We can't just replace that right away. And likely a lot of it's kind of gone. So finding ways to document our processes and store knowledge. So that's another thing that's becoming very common, is having a central knowledge base where we can start asking questions amongst the firm, like general questions. So maybe not client specific, but where's this line item on the 1040, or how do I get this to work in the software? We need a way that if someone else has that same question, they can come find it. So documenting processes, common questions, and having that central knowledge database is very, very crucial to the firm's ongoing success, just in case a catastrophe happens, someone gets sick, someone relocates, moves. We need that stored.
Mm-hmm. And so what can you say for as far as trends go? I look at trends a lot, right? So if I were to say, you know what, these particular set of clients, or the way that they're thinking about growing their business and their marketing, they're actually a great fit for me versus these type of clients, and I kind of have to go about it different with them, right? What would you say are the clients that are really type of firms, whether that's size or personality or psychology, that are really resonating with a lot of what you're saying right now?
So our sweet spot of firm size is about 10 to 25 employees. The biggest firm we worked with had over 100, and it's a lot more difficult to work with a big firm because the change management is definitely more difficult. There's a lot more opinions. Whereas if you're working with 10 to 25 people, it's a lot easier to get them on board and have a couple people really driving that change, because that's so important to have the support from the top down or the bottom up if those people are going to be driving it. Because you really, you see companies that they bought and spent a ton of money on software, but they didn't have anyone to support them through that change or help them implement it successfully. And then they never use it and they just stay stuck in their own ways. But we definitely work with a couple people who they are solo firm owner and they're killing it. But on the flip side, sometimes people don't see the value of paying for additional software in, like, let's say it's $100 a month and it's saving them 15 hours. And they're like, well, I don't want to pay $100 more a month. Well, is your time worth, is 15 hours of your time worth more than $100? And some of them seriously say, I don't know, that just seems expensive. So getting them to recognize value, we always try to do that. But at the end of the day, if they don't, then they probably are lacking a growth mindset. And we probably don't vibe the best with them. So,
yeah. So I am actually nearing a year in business here, and I'm going to come out with an article that I don't think a lot of people are expecting. Like, it's not going to be so it's not going to be positive about me. It's not an article that most people would make, but just to give a preview here. I mean, one of the worst things I did just growing my business for these past 11 months was spend too much time on clients that didn't necessarily resonate with me, see the value in what I was doing, or they also lacked that growth mindset where no matter if I could paint them, different pictures of the value, right, they were just not going to spend the money to do it. And so what I find so fascinating, what I want the audience to realize is I have, my own business. I've hired since month one, my own business coaches, my own marketing coaches, right? I've invested in my own business. And so if a firm doesn't want to spend $100 a month to make their processes run more efficiently, to really value their time as a human being. I literally had a post today about that. This will come out on Sunday, but this was the previous Thursday. Okay, just to get interesting here with the time. But I mean, at some point you have to say, how much is my time worth as a human? What am I investing my money in to grow my business? And then me as an accountant, an EA, or a CPA, why do I expect them to pay so much for my services when I am not really investing a lot of my money in my business, right?
Absolutely.
So that's one key thing that I've heard a lot from Grant Cardone. He's selling, big things, real estate, big packages, right? If he tells people a lot, selling on the phone is easy to him because he's telling people to invest in their businesses, but he's invested in his career and his businesses, probably the same amount, right? So I think a lot of what you're running into there and what is frankly in the accounting market is a lack of a growth mindset. But if you're listening to this podcast and you're this deep in the podcast and you don't have a growth mindset, it's like, what are you doing here? Right. So I expect a lot of you listeners to really resonate and understand with this as you go to your clients. And this is a marketing show, right? So I'll go ahead and throw this advice out. Like, just ask your clients if they don't want to invest in whether even if it's a 1099 or if it's a 1040 return that they're arguing the price on, right? We'll ask them, when's the last time they invested this amount, whatever the price was, right, in their business. And then they'll tell you, and then you can get into why they should invest in you as well, right? But like Katie said, some people just aren't going to actually ever buy, no matter how you frame it for them, right? So super interesting stuff on this podcast. Before I get into my next question, I just want to point out that I actually edited a podcast with Katie on it before, and it was actually for one of my clients. And after I edited that podcast for him, he was like, you should really have Katie on your podcast, right? And I was like, all right, yeah, I actually will in the future. It's just that I actually see people like, I just had JJ the CPA on my podcast, right? I see JJ the CPA doing it right. I see Katie Thomas doing it right. And some of the people that I see doing it right, I even want to have them, I have more marketing respect for them to where I waited for them to be a little bit more into my podcast, where if you look at anyone who's trying to make a podcast out there or anything like that, if you look at different accounting podcasts and then you look at mine in its first year, you'll say, wow, so there were only that number of guests, yet the guests were incredibly high quality guests, right? So there's a reason for that. And there's a reason that I notice Katie in the market. And I mean, you, Katie, I just have so much respect for some of the comments that I've seen on your videos, right? And before we get into my question, I just want to touch on this because I've seen you talk about it a little bit and I don't talk about it as much. And I think you're resonating with the market a lot here. And that's a psychology between one, working so many hours, right? How do you stay happy? How do you, stay happy doing what you're doing? And just that psychology. Can you just talk a little bit about that mental health there? I always think it's important. It's an important conversation. And it's something that I personally don't talk about enough. So would love to hear from you on that side of things. Just what your opinions are, your thoughts, what you've seen, what's good about it, what's bad. I don't know.
So I guess I don't know how to be anyone but myself.
Love it.
And that's always like being honest with people and sharing with them kind of what I'm going through. So like, for instance, when I left EY, I told them the truth. I was like, hey, I just can't picture myself being here and becoming partner. Like, I don't desire that lifestyle or anything. And like, I respect you guys, but it's not me. And so I literally can't be anyone but myself. And I try to always portray, some of the good, like a lot of the good, hopefully, and be like positive and a light, but also some of the not so good. Like today I made a post, like I get in a funks too. And, here's kind of how I get out of them. So I try to share that kind of stuff because I think social media is sometimes not the best for certain individuals who just follow the highlight reel and get really down on themselves and like, why am I feeling this way? And so like, I gotta be like, hey, you're doing great. I feel that way too. And it sucks, but here we are. And not trying to have a pity party, but just trying to give actionable, realistic kind of advice. And I hate to say advice because I'm not an expert, but
right.
Just to say like, there's all these highlight reels. There's all these people hustling, but hey, they've got problems too. We all do, but we're all living a very blessed life. Like just if anyone's listening to this podcast, perspective, we are so lucky.
Love it. Yeah, I love that. And I'll say this, I think when people hear like, two people that are getting attention on a podcast right now, yeah, like we both actually have charisma. We're both, down to get in front of the camera and talk, which means good things are going to happen for us as far as marketing goes. So I loved what you said about, advice. I don't want to call myself an expert. I just said this on a CPA podcast, the Jaeger CPA Review podcast. Couldn't believe I was on that podcast after working at PricewaterhouseCoopers and then quitting PricewaterhouseCoopers with telling them, hey, I'm not going to get my CPA. I think, it's funny that I end up on a CPA Review podcast. And so I went to that podcast not necessarily saying that, I was an expert, just, here are some things that are doing and it's working. And I think it's going to work because of, I'm listening to my mentors. I'm listening to what works and what's out there. Right. So a lot of stuff that we're saying, it might sound easy to do, I guess. But it's actually like there's our lives behind it, which I don't talk about my personal life a lot or enough for a lot. I don't know. I just, talk about what I talk about and I don't judge myself too much, which is why I'm able to just, get on a podcast and just start talking. Right. And then I listen to it when I edit it, but then to make sure like, did we reveal this confidential information, right? But other than that, like, I actually don't listen to myself again unless I'm trying to figure something out. Like, oh, do you do this a lot? Do you do that a lot, Juan? And get better. But I don't look at it from a place of mental health, judging the things that we post. Just like I said, I think at the beginning of this interview, there's people that look at Katie's stuff and they never like it, they never comment, but yet their life is literally changed by it, right? And I don't know if you look at likes or followers a lot, but I don't look at likes, I don't look at followers, because what I know about business, I just know that we can actually, like, Instagram and Facebook were down the other day, and I like literally know that like people's days were ruined, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's silly and that's crazy, because we're just really using it for business. I started even using Twitter in college for news, right? Just because it was the fastest news source, literally, and business. So like, I'm not necessarily resonating with a lot of people that are looking at other people online and being jealous. That's just not, that's not in my mindset. I guess, if I were to go see a psychologist, like maybe there's a little bit there, right? But at the end of the day, I did go, the one person I'm looking at as far as marketing and like saying, wow, he's really good, is Gary Vaynerchuk, right? And I know we've talked in the messages a little bit about my interactions with Gary V, right? But at the end of the day, I'm not looking at him and saying, man, why am I not like him? Man, I wish I could be him. I don't even wish I could be him. I literally told him to his face that I don't like when people call me the Gary V of accounting. I literally told Gary Vaynerchuk this. Like, I haven't said it, so I'll say it right now. I told him, like, I don't like when people call me that, because then that means I have to make billions, right? I have to like make enough money to buy the football team, and then that means we're competing. And I actually have no interest in competing with you, Gary Vaynerchuk. And then that's when he like got me in touch with his people, whatever. Wow. But actually, back to just bringing the conversation back to psychology, I think it's so easy for us to say things on a podcast like, hey, I do this or that to keep my energy levels up. I try to get enough sleep, even though it doesn't look like it. I actually need to work on that, but I go on runs and take cold showers to keep my energy levels up, right? To not, go in my mind to be on this burnout, to just go on a burnout bender, right? I run a lot, drink a lot of water, and take cold showers. That's a lot easier to say in a digital environment and type it out like I did this morning versus when I actually took the run, tired, breathing, and I actually took the cold shower. Man, like, stick my hand in. I don't want to get in this water, right?
Yeah.
But those are the things that you actually in real life do. So at some point, you have to stop looking at other people online and what they post, and you really have to look in the mirror. That's my only competition is, man, when I look myself, there's a mirror over there. That's why I looked. When I look myself in the eyes and think about what I'm doing, I've really, really got to, in a age where we're going so mobile and virtual and living like like I said, there's people, I'm going on a rant here, right? But there was people's days were ruined because Facebook and Instagram were down, right? You've really got to look yourself in the eyes in an actual mirror in real life and say, all right, what's going on here? What's going to keep me healthy? So, Katie, some of those things I mentioned, like the cold shower, the run, that's how I keep energy up. That's how I know, like, even starting to watch what I'm eating now, which I didn't do in college. I didn't do that during the Big 4 busy seasons, So trying to get better at that. What are some of the things you're doing to kind of keep your psychology up to par with the demanding environment that is business and doing what you're doing, right? Just some of those quick things that might even sound easy when you say it, but it's actually hard when you think about the IRL, the in real life of things. So go ahead.
Yeah. So, I mean, I try to eat healthy. I'm not someone who's like religiously like counts their macros, does that. I mean, maybe sometimes I should, but trying to like always eat vegetables with every meal, kind of basic. Drinking water, definitely key. And then I notice, I do go to the gym about 5 to 6 days a week, because I notice when I don't, like, the guilt of not going and sitting there being mad at myself for not going is worse than going. So I do that. But I noticed something for me that's like really important for my mental health is to get outside. So I love horses. I've ridden them all my life. And if I start pushing that off, it's something about like, I love horses and riding them, but also just being outside. And like, to me, that's like the ultimate shut off, because when I'm inside, even like in a gym, it's like people are on their phones and there's got headphones in, and it's just like you're like connected to a device. And whenever I'm outside and go see my horse, it's like, I don't know, like my brain just is in a different state. So to me, it's like really important to like reconnect with just myself and like nature. Maybe it sounds very hippie-esque, but like that's so important for me. But also another thing that's like really easy to say but hard to do is sleep. And I will be honest, there's been times where I've been really, really bad about it. It's like you're like staying up till like 3 or 4 in the morning, finishing a project and going. And like, if you are a normal human being, you crash and you burn, and you do that a couple times, you're like, all right, prioritizing my sleep. So I always try to get 7 to 8 hours. Obviously you can't always do that, but like whenever I plan out my day, the 7 to 8 hours is always in there.
No, I love it. And I think nature is extremely important as well, especially like if you're alive right now, whether you're a millennial, right, or you're above between 40 and 60 or even 60 plus, like some of my mentors, right, I definitely appreciate every generation, right? A lot of people say like, oh, how do you attract the millennials to your, organization, or, how can you use millennials, right? Or what generation is best, right? I understand just from looking at great businesses that are built that, well, we have 5 generations here to pull from at the very least, 4 to 5 to 6. Like, what does even Gen Z say about what's going to be going on here, right? And what have the 70 plus year olds and 80 plus year olds experience that we can then use to grow our businesses. Everyone has a job to do. But I mean, as far as living in 2019 goes, and what being in the digital environment, right, here being in Silicon Valley, there's actually a lot of cool things that I got to see at PricewaterhouseCoopers that our venture capitalists had invested over here, that I got to see the list of companies. I got to see commercials that hadn't come out yet, products that are being invented that, they're 100%, we're going to be living in a digital world. Like, they said we would be on hoverboards by now, but, there's Uber instead, right? Or something like that. But no, I mean, technology is moving so fast. There's a lot of things that are being invented here in Silicon Valley that the public doesn't know about, right? Or even now people saying that Facebook is bad, right? Well, we've got to at some point say, what about us? Like, we're normal, regular, actual human beings. A lot of us didn't get genetically engineered, like, humans will be in the future. Like, it's literally, don't shut the podcast off now, okay?
It's coming.
But these are things that will happen, like either my children or my children's children, or so on down the line. Someone will have to start competing with other humans, even in the workplace, that don't have to worry as much about taking care of their psychological mental health, because they're already like, it's ingrained in them just to be that A player, right? So that's super interesting to think about going forward. But what I cherish even more, and what I take massive pride in, is being an actual real life human being that does not need genetical engineering to have a happy life or build really, really awesome things, right? And so I think there's an appreciation that for really, people that can segment that in this time, 2019, that are going to either set up the world and the infrastructures of business to continue on into the future, or that may live in both, like Katie and I here, which we might actually see this before we leave this earth, right? And I think, that's something that I'll always talk about and always remind people that back in the clean, river and the clean river in San Marcos, Texas, one of the cleanest rivers in the United States. I mean, I said this one time in college and I had my GoPro and I was like, wow, like, can you believe this, guy? Like, and they thought I was crazy. I was like, can you believe this, guys? I'm taking like a video right now in this clean river and it's not going to be clean one day.
Right.
And people are literally going to have to put in a disc or, you know, a drive or something to experience clean rivers like that. Like, I'm just super appreciative for the chance to even be here, a real actual human. So I just wanted to say that before getting into the next question. Don't leave the podcast now. There's no conspiracy theory, but just from what I've seen in Silicon Valley, I think a lot of this AI talk, this robotic talk, us going in VR and the virtual environment, it's almost inevitable, which means we really, really have to be human now and really, really take care of ourselves. And there shouldn't be the question of, well, what do we do now when Facebook is down and Instagram is down? Right. So, no, getting into the next question here. I mean, you know, we're kind of wrapping up here, which is a good opportunity kind of for you to get out some of this information. But Katie actually invited me to write an article, and I'm very appreciative of it, to write an article about what, you know, accountants, CPAs should be posting online as far as content goes, right? And I won't get into the details. I'll let her say whatever she wants to say, but it's pretty big. It's coming out pretty soon. She has, you know, what do you have coming out? What can you tell us right now?
Yeah, so there is going to be a new community launching. It's called Accountants at Work, and it's going to be a place for accountants, whether you're a firm owner or you're a staff at a firm or a manager, to come together to have a community. So there's going to be a forum where you can have Q&A. There's also going to be experts writing and contributing wonderful content like yourself. And then it's really, like you were talking about Facebook and Instagram being down, there's so many people in these Facebook groups, LinkedIn groups, that it's wonderful, but they all need to meet and intertwine and interact because they're all providing great advice, but there's like a bunch of similar questions asked amongst all of them. So it kind of ties back to the practice management, having that central knowledge base, a place where everyone can come together and just share their knowledge. And then also for the people contributing their blogs, it gives them a chance to reach and be the expert and provide advice, and then hopefully grow their business too. So we're super excited about it. The plan is right at the beginning of April, it's going to launch. It's also going to have, of course, information on software. So we have software companies writing about it's not focused on any like sales or anything, but it's all just about value. So like things to consider, like maybe how dashboards can improve your business. It's all just a place to get resources, communicate with one another, form kind of like your tribe, is like people like to say it, but it's going to be awesome. And thank you, Juan, for bringing it up, because I think it's going to be great, and I know it's going to be great.
That sounds exciting, and it definitely, you know, it sounds even more interesting with the fact that Facebook, just disappeared for a minute, right? What do we do? Like, I don't know if anybody had, you know, stuff scheduled in their groups for that day, right? But it was like, whoever was in that group was like not communicated with unless you had their email and you were sending emails out, right? But no, I think that will be super interesting to see how that plays out. And I think a lot of collaboration and a lot of working together is not only the thing to win. Like, you remember I talk about sports and business a lot. Like, it's not only a thing to win in sports. I mean, it's a thing to win in business. And so I said this on the CPA, you know, the Jaeger podcast, CPA review course. There's two, this is my opinion outside of anyone else's opinion from just what I see in the market. And I think there's too much of an individualistic approach to a lot of these firms and a lot of these entrepreneurship offering, you know, businesses in the accounting space. And really the best, and if you're looking for the true answer to build amazing accounting businesses, it's finding all these best experts, all these best people in the accounting space, and putting them together, even if they're the best or not it is not an individualistic industry. You could do that, but you're playing more to your ego and hurting
Exactly.
yourself more versus like actually building something special like you say you want to build, right?
Yeah.
And so I think, I think that's going to be amazing to see how that plays out, Katie. More than happy to be a contributor. And just back to that same topic of, going on the difference between teaming up, collaborating, and then I want to be very individualistic, right? Maybe I'm an expert, I'm a guru. Don't listen to everyone else, right? I think people just only need to be focused on themselves, right? And what can I do better? And if you look at, I don't know if anyone watches basketball, the NBA out there anymore, but we're going into playoffs right here when I talk about basketball. And if you look at the Spurs record, I'm from San Antonio, so of course I'm a Spurs fan, but if you look at the Spurs record versus the Los Angeles Lakers record, and you look at what was right now versus what was said before the season, right? Everyone was saying that, hey, wherever LeBron goes, LeBron James, wherever he goes, because he's the best player in the world in the Western Conference of the NBA, that team is almost guaranteed. They're guaranteed to go to the playoffs, and they might win the championship. The Lakers are not in the running to make it to the playoffs right now. Something special has to happen. And the Spurs, who, no one knows who's playing for the Spurs right now, but they're in the playoffs because they work together as a team, right? And so I think some of these sports analogies, fine, forget it. I'm just saying that teams literally beat the best player in the world, right?
Exactly.
Even if it's two of them on the same team.
Exactly.
So super interesting stuff there. And I think actually, Katie and I here are going to have some collaborations that we may talk about in the future, because I'm trying to, I literally said, I looked at the market. I looked at the marketing market. I said, wow, and this is me just kind of talking here, don't take this and run with it. I said, wow, the only competition I really have for what I want to build is Gary Vee. He's literally my competition. I'm going to go to him, tell him that, hey, there's no point in competing with you. At some point, I'm going to be referring you business here, right? And so I think that's actually going to happen, which is pretty cool. But essentially, I'm just trying to bring the best of the best in marketing, bring it to the accounting industry that, ever so deserves it. So with that being said, Katie, what I want to know, being so young and being in this industry, I mean, I plan to stick around for a long time, yet I actually don't plan to be, just the most well-known. I think a lot of my brands and companies and CPAs that I'm managing, they will achieve it because we're actually working on building their brands, right? And I'll be in the background. I'll be, doing some other, even in sports marketing, music marketing, right, in the future. But how long, do you plan to, if you could look right now, not that we can tell the future, but how bad, how long and how much and how bad do you want to impact this industry? And what do you see in the future for this industry? Accountants, CPAs?
That's an interesting question. And even over the past 3 months, it has my futuristic global little globe that I'm trying to read, has changed a lot. So, I mean, I find it really difficult. Potentially, I feel like now I've worked with quite a few SaaS companies, so it might be transitioning more to working primarily with a software company. It could be staying where I'm at right now. I always see myself working in this area of helping businesses become more efficient. I love the accounting industry, but to say that that's where I'll be forever, I think is not realistic because I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, definitely getting more involved with a lot of the software companies. So we'll see where that goes. I'm so happy with where I'm at currently, but I'm also not closing doors that are coming up and offering different opportunities. So we'll see. It's exciting.
That's awesome. Love it. And that actually, I just want to point something out there. Like, that's very strategic, right? And that's not to say that you will not be impacting the accounting industry, but even I like plan to, not be so upfront, up front and center, and literally the one impacting the accounting industry as far as marketing goes. Yet we're going to do a lot behind the scenes and in the boardrooms, and we're actually going to grow companies here, which means you actually at some point might see whether it's less of Katie Thomas with these videos that are really starting her out and building her brand from what I've seen and what I've known about branding, right? Now that she has a brand, she has so many options and so many doors open to her, right? And that's so powerful. And me thinking in the long term, I think that it's always smart to keep your options open, right? And be completely authentic about it versus being like, hey guys, like I'm going to be here forever.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like you hear even me saying on this podcast, like we'll be impacting the industry. It may be behind closed doors, but you actually might not see a lot of Juan Garcia like he is right now. But yet, these are things that we did do, coming out with these videos on LinkedIn, online. These are things that we do to build our brand and really kind of, we need to make a living here, right? So I'm very appreciative for everything that has happened for me in these past 11 months. But Katie, when did you start? That's a question that probably everyone wants to know. When did you start your entrepreneurial journey? It's Katie Thomas, CPA.
So I started it about a year and a half ago. And
Awesome.
at the beginning I had to do I even did CPA tutoring and stuff.
Love it.
Because I was just, everyone's trying to make a living and you find your way and then you feel like you found it. And then, like I said, another door opens and you keep finding your way. So
insane.
It's all about you just have to love what you do, and you might even find that you love something even more. But it's all about being happy, because if you're not happy, that's just, life's way too short. And so I assume that you felt kind of similarly in your previous job. And I never want to dish on the Big 4. I respect everyone who stays there so much. It's just
100%.
It didn't fit me, and like I said, I'm always going to be me. So, like I said,
Yeah.
We'll see where the future goes.
Love it. Well, I'm pretty sure that the Big 4 really appreciated you being there, and they would love you back. But now that the entrepreneurial CPA accounting world has you, and I'm sure that they're very happy that they have you now. So thank you for coming on the show, Katie. And any last words that you want to tell the audience? Anything that's on your mind? What are you looking at? What are you obsessed about? End it off here.
Literally, I believe anyone with a passion in this industry or making a name for themselves or a brand can do it. They just have to start. I am by no means an expert or have a big following, but it just takes holding up your video, and the hardest thing is just to press record. But you can do it, post it, and don't Juan always says you can't worry about the likes or the comments, because even Gary Vee started out with 1 or maybe even 0 likes. You just have to put yourself out there, and people start to know, like, and trust you. So if you have a hankering for trying something new or going out on your own, just do it, because you're not going to regret trying.
Love it. Thank you very much, Katie. And that is it.